Well, thank you, everybody. I think today is a long day, and you have a lot of wines to taste. So I just going to be brief as I can. But for us, the sustainability is a very important concept. So we just want to give some ideas of that, okay? So I'm going to start with the presentation. Well, first, sustainability. This is not a concept that somebody invent or create, a smart guy invent last year. This is a concept that has been in the community for the last more than, well, even 15 years. You know, it was United Nations concepts, and it was, you know, in the Brundtland Convention, in the Brundtland Report, when they established the relationship between sustainability and development. And the idea is that we are growing so fast that we can't be sustainable in this rate of growth. So that is the idea of sustainability. And what it means that sustainability with development is defined as one that satisfies the needs for present generation without compromising the needs for future generation. That's the idea. So you have to be balanced, not only with your natural resources, but also with your social resources and with your economy. For putting it in some simple language, you are not sustainable if you invest so much, for example, in being green or whatever, and you broke. You're going to disappear. You are not sustainable. So the idea is that you have to consider also the profitable of the company. This is the combination of the three: social, economic aspects, and the environmental aspect. You're not going to be sustainable also if you are not looking after your social or your workers, because, well, they are not going to help you in your company, and at the end you're going to broke also. So it's that idea, the three concepts, okay? And how are we dealing? How you should deal with sustainability? Well, it's so simple like any process in life. First, you need a definition, then you need to measure, and then you need to improve the level of that, okay? That's the idea. It's a three-step process. So well, in Santa Rita, we have been working with that in mind, okay? Definition, measure, and improving, managing the sustainability. That means to improve the level of our practices. So, well, that's the reason that we put all of this in a Santa Rita State sustainability program. Again, the definition is already established. I already took from the United Nations concept. Sustainability is the convergence of being environmentally friendly, socially equitable, and economically viable. It has to be three. So this is very important because right now we are starting to talk a lot about sustainability, and sometimes we confuse with being green, only green. No, it's more than that. And green is not only be organic. Organic is a kind of elaboration process, or biodynamic. But this is in the environmental chapter. If you talk about that, you are not talking about social aspect or economic, okay? So just always having in mind that is the three concepts. And well, I would like to say something because this is very important. I think in UK, you have been looking at a lot of standards because this is the second part of the process, measure. The definition is already established. Now we are in measuring the sustainability. How we're going to measure this thing that is so broad, that it's considering environmental, social, and economic? How it's? Well, a lot of people have been establishing specific standards for some aspects in environmental. As I say, organic, for example. You can check a standard in organic in the wines, in the food, and also you can find a standard for social aspects. For example, like fair trade or fair for life. And so you are looking at two standards. One is related to one aspect in the environment, and the other is related to the social aspects. So the idea to create a standard for sustainability is to have a checklist, like the organic or the other, in each part, in the environmental aspect, in the social aspect, and in the economic aspect. So they are going to ask you a lot of questions in each part of the process, and then you're going to have a standard. So this is an approach that nobody is using at the moment. The only industry that has been looking at the sustainability like this in a standard is the wine industry in the new world wine countries. And this is, I think you are familiar, South Africa has a standard for sustainability. They call integrity and sustainability. New Zealand has been doing this kind of a standard in sustainability for the last 15 years. So the wine industry decided that only the environmental chapter, the green chapter, it was not so comprehensive, and he wanted to include the social and the economy, and they say, okay, we're going to establish a standard for sustainability. So, well, Chile is part of this, obviously, and we are trying to lead in this new trend of having a standard more broad and not 3 different things. So we create a standard in Chile. That is a new standard, and we worked, I think it was like 4 years ago when I was working in Wines of Chile, with 5 universities, and we developed this checklist in each part of the process of the making, of the elaboration process, or making process of wine. Okay, so we went to the vineyards, and we checked the use of water, the use of pesticide, the use of a lot of things. Then we went to the winery, we asked some questions for the energy, so we go to each part of the process and we create this standard with the 5 universities. This standard is already published. There is a lot of wineries that has been working with that in Chile, and there is a webpage that is www.sustainability.org, so you can check all the information in that. Well, but now, what is Santa Rita State did about this? First, we certify all our wineries, the 4 wineries in Chile, because this is a Chilean standard. So we are working with the 4 wineries in Chile, with Santa Rita, with Carmen, with Terra Andina, and with Nativa, that is organic also, and with Doña Paula, that obviously this standard is certified sustainable wine of Chile. It can be applied to our winery in Argentina, but we have been working with them in the same process, okay? So this is very important. And the second part, I don't want to give more information about the certification and the standard because you have a lot of information in the web, okay? And if you can ask me something, I will be to answer. And the second standard that we are trying to use for reporting, for communicate you what are we doing in sustainability is a more international standard. The first, I told you that it was Chilean. It was created by the wine industry with the universities. This way, this standard to communicate what are we doing in sustainability is an international standard. It's the Global Reporting Initiative. So all the big companies in the world are reporting in these kind of things. They had to do for the stakeholders, okay? So for us, it was the last year, it was the first time that we developed this report. That is the same framework, the same methodology for reporting the things that you are doing, okay? With the same indicators. It's for every industry the same. So the last year it was the first time, and right now we have been recently published the Spanish version in the web, and the English version is going to be probably in 10 days, so sorry for that. And just to show that our commitment with the sustainability and with different ways to demonstrate that we are working is so big that we have been also working with the Nordic alcoholic monopolies in other standards that they are developing. This is for them, code of conduct, the code of conduct of the Nordic alcohol monopolies, and we have been voluntarily working with them in that. Okay, so just because we are not afraid to participate in everything. And the third part, I told you that it was 3 steps. First, definition, measure, and manage. The manage is the most important part. If you measure something, if you want to be better, you have to improve. And what are you doing for improving each part of the process of the elaboration of our wines? Well, first we have vineyards, cellars, commercialization, suppliers and business, and community. That it means workers and community. So in each part, I'm just going to give one example of what are we doing, trying to improve our levels of sustainability practices. For example, if we go to the vineyards, this is each winery, because we are Santa Rita State, we have 5 wineries. Each winery is more specific in something. But for example, here I just giving some example. In Santa Rita, we have been working a lot, and 7 years ago, with the genetic material. I mean, if you want to be sustainable, your vines has to be sustainable, okay? Has to be there. So to have material free from virus is very important. So we went to our vineyards, we took the better material, we cleaned this material from the virus, and we put it in nursery conditions for reproducing. And then it came back to our vineyards. So the idea, if you have a material free from virus, you're going to use less fertilizers, yeah, and it's going to be more productive. So it's going to be more sustainable in terms of economic and in terms of environment. So this is some examples of a thing. For example, the use of water. If you use the technified management irrigation, you can reduce a lot the use of water. So to make all, I mean, I think 80% of our vineyards right now are with this technology. It's very important. You can reduce the use of water a lot. There is a number, but it's approximately 30% of the reduction of water. Okay, we go to the next step, cellars. In the cellars, well, obviously in the cellar, the most important thing is the energy and probably the waste management. So in terms of the energy, for example, in Carmen, that has been very, very innovative in this kind of thing. We have been using some geothermic and aerothermic. That sometimes the name is like very fancy, but it's so simple like to, because you need refrigeration for the stock barrels and bottles. So the idea is to avoid this kind of use of energy for having the refrigeration. You can open windows because the temperature difference in Chile is so big. You can put some automatic windows and open by night and close by day with an automatic system. So the only energy that you have to use for that is the automatic system. So it's so simple, but give you a lot of reduction in the energy, almost 80%. And in the waste management, the same. We have been doing with bottles, paper, or plastic, we have 5,000 kilos of plastic recycled by month in the winery in Santa Rita. So, well, next, packaging. And this is very important because in UK has been a big issue. The light bottles. Where is more sustainable to use the light bottles? Well, because of the carbon footprint. Because the transport, the gas emission, the carbon footprint is the measure for the gases that you are putting in the gases of the greenhouse gases, okay? So this is the greenhouse thing. And if you are using light bottles, the transport that is here, for example, this is the calculation of the carbon footprint of Santa Rita that we did 3 years ago. If you see to the, to the right, 46% is related to transport. So the carbon footprint, the gases that you are, the emission of the gases is relating in 46% to the transport, okay? So if you are using less glass in your bottles, you are using less combustible, how do you say? Fuel. Yes. So then the gases emission are going to be less. So this is the idea of doing that. But only one thing, I think this industry, the wine industry, has been talking a lot, too much about the greenhouse gases and the carbon footprint. Why I'm saying that? Because, I mean, if you take all the, for example, we are talking like for a liter of wine, the studies that are circulating in the world say that the carbon footprint is 2 kilograms of CO2 per liter. If you took this in an average and the production of all the liters that we have in 1 year in the wine industry in total, and you make the percentage with the total emissions in the world, we are the 0.08% of the total emissions of carbon footprint in the world, the wine industry in total. So we have to be honest that we are working a lot with the carbon footprint and everything in trying to reduce the gases and everything, but we are not the industry that has been taken in consideration of this in the first place, okay? The second step in the making process of wine, for example, suppliers and business. How is the relation that you have for improve your level of practices, of sustainable practices with the suppliers? And well, this is only a small initiative, it's not very fancy, but sometimes simple things are better. And we make an agreement with the glass company that bring the empty bottles to our winery in order that they come back with full bottles of our wines to the city. So it's so simple but you need an agreement with them. So it's your suppliers, so you have to make some meetings with them for doing that. And that obviously gives you a reduction of the carbon footprint related to the transport in that trucks, okay? So this is part of the thing. And the last part of the process is how to work with the work and with the community. And I'm going to be very specific in this. One is workers and the other is the community. The workers for us is not only the workers, are the workers and their families. Okay? So we are trying to work with, I think, the two most important things in Chile. One is health and the other is education. Probably you know that in Chile is a country that is not developed yet, not as a European country, but we are trying to do it our best. So the education and the health system is very important. So the people need some support in these two things. So we are giving, in terms of education, giving to the families of our workers a lot of help, scholarships for the people, for the kids, for students and everything. And then we are doing that photo that you can see on the slide. It's not a clinic, it's our medical center that it was built inside of our winery. And 6 specialty for the workers and their families. So for them it's very important because the health system in Chile sometimes is very expensive and it's not so good. So it's very important to mention that. And the last is all the things that we are doing relating to the community. And I just want to take 1 minute more for this because it was a great initiative that we fostered the last year. Because I think Santa Rita State has a very, very essence related to the cultural aspect, heritage. I mean, in terms of a museum and the collection and the buildings and everything. We have a chapel built in 1880. And it's a very fantastic chapel with an acoustic marvelous. So what are we doing? To work with education with the community and the cultural aspects. Okay, so in education, we are inviting some technical school of the community for doing the practice with us. So it's simple, but it helps. And in terms of the cultural program, we have been doing some activities in terms of the concerts. And I just want to invite you, if you have the opportunity for next year, we're going to do the same cycle of concerts, 4 concerts, one of each season, with a very special pianist or whatever. And they have been doing the concert not only for the guests, but also for the students of the schools related to the community. Well, that's it. To be sustainable, you know, is to be in business as you used to be. And that's the idea, that you have to work in each part of the process of the wine, trying to improve your level of sustainable practice. This is where we're trying to do, and we hope to be in 100 more years working in the same industry. So thank you very much. Any question that you have, but I should be brief.
I think we'll do questions sort of after the end, if that's all right, Elena.
Okay.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you very much, Elena, for that presentation. Fascinating stuff.